Hey everybody, welcome to the VR Game Nights. We're gathered around a virtual roundtable to discuss virtual reality news and happenings. And today, we're using something different. You can see we're side by side here. We're trying Discord out because Hangouts isn't working. It's just not working. We don't know why, but we tried different computers, different browsers, and all kinds of stuff. So we're trying something new. With that said, what is going on today? The biggest thing going on today is that everybody is getting, you can see I got my Quest right there, and I think uh, Sir Aga received his Rift S, and yep, there it is. Look at that beautiful thing. And so everybody is getting their new headsets. Everybody who pre-ordered them are getting them this week, likely. And we're all trying them out. The reviews are going out there. I put up an unboxing and a setup video last night. I'm kind of still tired from doing that, but I saw. And the other thing, the third thing is Tested, who do a lot of great reviews on YouTube, reviewed the Reverb, and I want to talk about that a little bit later as well. But as far as I'm concerned, I know a lot of people out there that playing, they got their new headsets, they're doing all this great stuff. I've only got to the setup part. So, in any case, I'm looking forward to we're going camping this weekend, my wife and I. So I'm looking forward to getting some offline time to play. But I'm very excited about it. Just a little bit I did. I was very happy with the graphics. Um, and with that said, I want to turn it over to Sir Aga. How are you, sir?
I am pretty good. Pretty good.
And how far have you gotten playing with your your Rift S so far?
So I haven't played with mine yet. I knew that was going to be the case. I will probably not get around to starting to do my live testing until next week. I did shoot my initial hardware impressions video very late last night, like after midnight, which is doing fairly well on YouTube. I guess there's a lot of interest. I'm like I had a headset review that I was still had to finish up, and I started a new capture card review yesterday as well. So I had a few things backed up in the pipeline.
Awesome. Awesome. Now that was on Rounding Off Infinity?
Yes, yep.
Okay, yep, I saw the link for that. Okay, great. Well, um, every once in a while your site is blinking off. And I don't know what causes that, but it could be my connection, but this is something new for us to try. With that said, you know, as we look at these new headsets, you have the Reverb out there that has the highest resolution. And it's very tempting. I think a lot of people are very tempted, especially since if you're a sim gamer, you're playing in like an Elite Dangerous or Project Cars 2 or whatnot, where you really don't need to worry about the Windows mixed reality controllers. I mean, they work okay, but they're not the best on the market. But the thing that stuck out to me with Tested, the displays are beautiful. The microphone is stereo, unlike the Rift, the microphone's mono. Um, but that they weren't able to run it at full resolution with 1080 GTX 1080s. So I'm kind of like, yeah, I think the reverb just is off my wish list. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just don't want to upgrade my 1070 right now. And if they're having problems with the 1080,
So do you think that's just a driver problem, though? I mean, that shouldn't be a performance problem, right?
that's a great question. That it could be a driver issue. Um, I don't know. I don't know. But both the guys on tested, they weren't able to put it at like 175%. They explained it. They got a great review on the reverb. You need to put it at 125%, 175% to get it to be 2K by 2K on both eyes. And so you think about that, you know, it's hard to get a gaming rig to play with two 4K screens is challenging, and that's while it's not two 4K screens, it's two different scenes in 2K by 2K. So I can understand it, and that's why I've said before, I don't want an RTX, I want a GTX that pushes twice as many frames per second, so I have no problems with my VR. But we'll see if we get that next year. Who knows? But yeah. So while I love the look of the reverb and how clear the images are through the camera, um, I guess I don't have the video card to run it. So I'm excited that I have my Quest. The Rift S that you have has the same minimum specifications as the old Rift, which I was playing tonight with, and it works great on a 1070. Works great on a 1060. Um, So with any case, that's kind of like what's happening right now, right? Um, but you had put in a story which I loved, and could you talk about this a little bit? The next story on the list.
Yeah, so I don't know who these guys are. Thrust Vector, but I guess they're developers behind some other titles. But they have been working on a shared space multiplayer game for the Oculus Quest. And so by shared space, what we mean is if you kind of go with some of the old sci-fi plot scenarios, right? It's, some people, one person dreams, another person dreams, but like the really wicked thing is when like it should never be possible for two people to be in the same dream together. This is essentially what shared space multiplayer is. It's two people in the same virtual reality environment. It is sick in concept. And you can go to the link, which will be posted in the show notes, where you can see the two developers walking around their office. Now, the gaming the system part that they did was that the map for the VR level that they were in was built to replicate their office. So they basically took their office and just skinned it so that they didn't have to worry about actually running into any obstructions. So you would have to do something to accommodate that. But maybe you could have a two-person seated game without necessarily using the locomotion. But so they were both walking around the space as if they were like two riflemen in a squad or a rifle team, and they used the touch controllers to as were their beam weapons and their phasers, I guess, if you will, and they like engaged enemy aliens who were in the same space, and because it was their office, it was kind of like it was a interior urban environment, a CQB situation. So the aliens could duck behind cover, and then they were able to go and walk into a room with like multiple computer terminals. And the situation was they had to both go to two different terminals and like punch in special codes, which they did in VR using the controller. So just in concept, it was pretty out of this world. And again, this was done on the Quest, not on the full-blown PC-powered version. The nearest analog to this, according to the article, is you would have to do this like in arena-size VR with each individual kitted out with a VR backpack and their own headset. This, of course, is running, again, on a thing being powered by a Snapdragon processor and running Android. So it was fairly ambitious and pretty incredible. Undoubtedly a thing that I would play. And in fact, Gray, maybe you'll talk me through some more later in the show tonight. I'm partially leaning into the notion of also picking up a Quest as well. But I will let you convince me on that when you talk about it a little later.
Yeah, and I don't think I can until I actually played a little bit more. But having said that, I want to say that the way they laid out those levels, so they could walk through. You think about an office like long corridor, then you come into an area full of cubes, and then at the end of all the cube rows is offices, and they reused the same area several times. Like they would go up an elevator, and then they'd come back out, and they would walk back through, and you would never know. Like it looked like the game, the space station, wherever they were. It looked like that's the way it should be designed. But you're looking on the other side of the screen, you see the two guys going through, and you're like, this was great. They were so, they fit it for their office, right? So they didn't have access to apparently they don't have access to a big stadium where they can just do whatever
Right.
they want, right?
And,
But
and,
I
and
just
they,
thought it was ingenious. I just like you guys did a great job reusing. They go up the elevator, come out, they go back, then they go down the elevator, and they keep
right.
going. It feels like
And,
they're going forever to different places, but they just keep walking through the same office.
and this is an experience that was created by two programmers. So I want to see. Um, uh,
And it was called Thrust Vector Shared
yes,
Space
yeah,
Multiplayer,
yep,
and we'll put
yeah.
the
So
link in the show notes.
it was developed by two programmers and one artist during an 8-day developer jam.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's pretty remarkable. Um, Yeah, I mean the experience as it's depicted here, I mean it likens to my concept of what would it be. It's it is it's paintball or laser tag in VR, and that's a pretty amazing conceptual experience. And again, one I would definitely sign up for. I have not to date been convinced of the of a sufficient level of usefulness for me from standalone VR. But this definitely makes a case for it to the point where I would actually be potentially willing to grab a Quest now and just live in it for a year or so if these experiences are potentially imminent, like during the life cycle ownership time that I would have the Quest.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting because when I think a lot of people fell in love with the Dead and Buried 2 uh, stadium kind of demo that was done last year, where they had people. It was in a they were in a like an arena or stadium, big open space warehouse, whatever, and they had cardboard like these cardboard boxes where the different props were inside the game, and it was just amazing to watch the people teaming up and walking through. And there are some VR arcades. I live out in the Berkshires, very rural. We don't have any VR arcades out here. I'd love to start one, um, but that that's kind of what they do too. But it was excellent to see it running on a Quest, which is affordable. You know, very cool. Just very cool, and I'm glad you saw that too. So we'll put a link if you haven't seen that video. We'll put a link in the show notes, so when this goes up, as we're talking, you can open it up and take a look at it. But kudos to those guys for doing that. Did great job. And I want to minus kudos from the guy who walks into work while they're filming. Did you see that towards the end? This guy walks in. He's like, oh, I'm here for work. It's like, dude, we're filming here. What are you doing? So he loses kudos. But let's see, what's the next story we're talking about today? Oh, yes. Joel, you want to talk about that? Joel made a move.
Yeah, sure. So this is new for me as I'm sliding into the space of starting to cover this content topically. I guess I've got to learn all the names and faces around the biz, so to speak. And so the title of this article, which we sourced on roadtovr.com, is former Vive Studios head Joel Breton joins Sixth Sense. So Sixth Sense came to some level of infamy, I would say, over the last couple of years from having kicked off a Kickstarter campaign and then having to refund the money. So they were attempting to develop a new positional tracking standard, which would provide 6 degrees of freedom to controllers and room scale. Tracking to early VR kits. So, in some ways, you could kind of think of it as almost hardware middleware, so handling the tracking and sensory problem and for VR hardware creators so that they could just concentrate on the other stuff. They raised about $600,000 and then just weren't seeing a way to pull it all together and wound up giving it back. This solution was a thing that was planned for the consumer space. The pivot they made was to go enterprise. So, and this is where we get into some weirdness. So, Breton, who was formerly head of Vive, he is a game industry guy. Worked at Sega, worked at 2K Sports, Bethesda, MTV Networks, 505 Games, and then spent 2 years with Vive Studios. He's been picked up and brought over to Sixth Sense. The strange thing to me is Sixth Sense says that they're pivoting to enterprise, but then they go out and they bring a game industry guy over to be a leader within their team. So he's specifically going to be working on the software side, and I guess working with the teams. It says on computer to human interactions. It's still very strange to me that a company trying to build up an enterprise application goes out to get a gamer guy, but that is a little bit of what's moving and shaking in the industry.
Yeah, I have to agree. I thought that was odd too. I'm like, there's something they're not telling us. this and rightfully so, because the companies have to have their secrets. They have to have a competitive edge. They can't let all the competitors and everybody else know what they're doing to try to corner the market and what they're doing. But all the pieces we know don't add up, right? At least to me, they don't.
Yeah, now one possibility is that he's being brought in because they're making an enterprise pivot, but it could be that that enterprise pivot is going to be highly gamified, like training for field personnel or employees who do some physical activity, and it could even be gamifying things that are similar or akin to the tasks that they do in the field, even though the tasks that they do in the field may not be specifically sports related. Um, it could be again gamifying things that accentuate that skill set. So who knows? And if they're trying to go government, obviously making a VR thing for government agencies and or military could definitely be a play there as well.
Yeah, very interesting. It'll be nice to see where that goes. Um, and I guess our last news article here is about the augmented reality affecting people. You want to take that one?
Yeah, and I won't dive too deep on this because I don't necessarily. I mean, it's in some ways, as is frequently the case with the promulgated findings of research studies that aren't the actual scientific paper, it really doesn't say a whole lot. So, I mean, basically, what they found is that by exposing people to AR and VR for extended periods of time, and they did this with 218 participants, is that people's behavior in the virtual world started reflecting their behavior in the real world. So a lot of us have the social cueing of like when you come into a space and there are multiple open seats. We, and say a person gets up and walks out. We tend to not necessarily sit exactly where that person was because it feels kind of gross to like have the other person's warmth like in your seat. And they talked about how that behavior, they would see that behavior being mimicked in the AR VR environment. So so that was kind of interesting, and it means, I mean, possible implications are if you are trying to. One thing that I find interesting here is, let's say that you have somebody trying to get over a fear or an anxiety. Let's say, and I don't know how well this would work, but say a firefighter who has gone through a traumatic event and now has an extreme fear of fire and can't pull himself together to go back into a burning space. It's possible that he could be trained in a VR environment. Now, then you get into things of, you know, when you train in a simulated environment, you don't have certain stimuli like heat. Heat sometimes really flips people out. I've done firefighting training, and standing in a hose when the fire is not on is one thing. As soon as the fire is lit, it's a completely different thing. So I don't know. It'll be curious to see how far this can go, but it's definitely interesting to consider that you could expose somebody to a stimuli in a safe environment, to the point of numbing them to a visual fear, and then possibly allow them to then be an asset in an area where they're exposed to that type of stimuli. It also gives you thoughts of things like Ender's Game kind of things, like when they so it's interesting. But it's always interesting to see how again, people exposed to an artificial environment wind up um, representing the same mannerisms, and vice versa, that you could pick up habits in the virtual world that you might then replicate in the physical world.
That brings up a couple of points. I mean, I remember, I think it was in Happiness Advantage by Sean Actor, where he talks about having played Grand Theft Auto, right, in his younger years as a like a freshman in college. Um, he played it like all weekend long, and when the first thing he did when he left the dorm room and went to go to the store to get some food was he saw a police car and he almost walked up to it and tried to jack it, because that's what he was doing all weekend. Um, and it's like the policeman was sitting right in it, and he was like had done that so much. And I even think, really, I think like I played a lot of NASCAR by Papyrus, one of the first really good racing video games, and all about drifting, right? All about getting right up on the, and to this day, I still feel like I have to turn off my NASCAR driver from that simulation because I did so many turns, around the track just trying to hug the guy in front of me that sometimes, in rush hour I can get like that. I can be like, and my wife has to say, "Hey, why are you tailgating?"
Right.
So, because I'm going
Well,
faster this way.
and there are other things just about the repetition of physical actions, right? One of the things, and I probably do it a little bit on podcasts, but when I was in the military, and I'm sure you know as well, like you tend to use very strict diction when you're talking on a radio. And so often, after being out for a very long time, and I was just in a role where I was constantly on the radio, like girlfriends and people and friends that I knew would always say, "Man, like, dude, you're still talking in radio voice." Like, you get
Yeah.
stuck in that mode. And things like there's a like for us there was a certain way ladder staircases were really really steep, and so you tend to take staircases at an angle, which is just kind of a weird thing.
Yep.
But it's a physically repetitious activity, and you do the same thing. So I could definitely see how you could pick up certain mannerisms in the virtual world that you would just continue to Pavlovian kind of response of replicating them. So it's a fairly interesting thing, and I can see potentially positive benefits from it, which I think is the most interesting thing to me about it.
I read a lot of lit RPG books. I got Kindle Unlimited, and they're all about people getting it really most of them are about VR MMORPGs. And one of the thread that comes up through all the books is, there's two camps of people. There's the camp who say you go into virtuality to be somebody else. You're going in there to be somebody else that you're not normally. And then there's the other side that say you're going into VR and you're going to still live by your same code, right? So we're the VR game nights. We have a code, right? So, it would be interesting to know what our viewers think. Do you go into virtual reality to be somebody totally different? Like to like if you're nice in reality, are you mean in VR or vice versa? To me, I just have to be me all the time. I'm not smart enough or clever enough to be somebody else. I can be a pirate, I can be a tank driver, I can do all those things, but I still have to be, I still have to live by my code. And I always found that I could some people can not do that. I don't understand how they do that.
It's a
Like,
Well, it's very similar to the topic in just gaming in general, right? And I will admit I spent the vast majority of my time as a gamer doing that, like always taking the good guy path, right? When we got around to games where you could be good or evil. So I don't know. I'm a little concerned to say this because maybe it's indicative of a certain thing, but like Red Dead Redemption 2, I just there's something about the gameplay and the framework and the model of the world. I was like, no, I'm going to be a scoundrel. Like I'm just going to like I'm a criminal. I'm running with a gang. In the real world, when I'm a good guy, like one of my big things is like security, right? So if you're a bad guy, one of my big things is security, and I'm not going to have somebody rat me out, right? So maybe it's the same mannerisms, but they can be pointed in different directions depending on the framework of the game. So it presents a potentially interesting conundrum. So
yeah, and I
and
think
VR
I think
just makes that more visceral.
I think there's a huge difference when you're doing it to an NPC, which is really just pixels on the screen, or you're doing it to other real like I think we've all been in the situation where we've been camped, right? Spawn camping. Most games don't even allow that anymore. It's not even possible anymore. But if you go way, way back, right? Um, that was kind of a miserable experience, and people were just trying to make the game miserable for other people. And I've never understood that, but that's some people are like that, right? You got 7 billion people on the planet, you're gonna have some that like the spawn camp. But I think that kind of all ties into it. It's like what you do in game, it should affect what you do in life, And I think I think one thing that you could learn to get over in virtual reality might be a fear of heights, because it's much easier to try that in virtual reality than walk all the way up or take the elevator all the way up to the Empire State Building, and see if you can handle it there. But yeah, good talk. So now we're on the part two of the show. We're going to talk about new tech and games, and we both got new headsets, so we're going to talk about it. How was your out of box experience with your Rift S. So you've opened it up, you've taken it out of the box. Did it have everything you wanted?
Yeah. So I talked about some of these points last night, and
Yep.
if I get too deep or too detailed, you can let me know. Like there's a certain heft to this headset that I personally like. I'm a larger guy. I like big, thick, heavy watches. I tend to like phones that are heavier with heavy industrial design. I'm kind of the same way for headsets. Um, so this when I spend a lot of money, I like to get a thing that feels like I spent a lot of money. So I'm fine with the heft of this headset. A couple of things that I thought were interesting. One, you can see the Lenovo branding here on the side. I didn't get that word. I guess because we hadn't planned on doing the podcast when this information first came out, like in March. I didn't know that Oculus was teaming with Lenovo to make the headset, but they have, based on Lenovo's past experience with two headsets, including one of which was with Google, and then of course making their own WMR headset. So that was pretty cool. One of the things that I did like is the inside-out tracking cameras. This has 5, I believe, one of which is on the top. So I thought that was a pretty smart design move there. One of the things that I'm anticipating having some concern about is we have the two different types of headset securing mechanisms, right? We have the Halo design, which this predominantly is, and we have the harness design like the Vive. This is some kind of weird hybrid where it's the rigid plastic of the Halo design, but then the top is a harness. So I don't know exactly how that's going to play. One thing is I like the Halo design in terms of it tends to feel more secure. It is, however, less comfortable than the harness. The harness also feels more comfortable, but I don't necessarily feel like it uses the static weight of the headset itself as part of generating sufficient force for it to be secure on your head, which sometimes doesn't feel quite as secure. So I'm interested to see how this feels. It's got a 5 meter cable, so 15 feet total here. I haven't unbound this thing yet. I assume there's a 3.5 millimeter connection in there for the headset. The DP connections are just kind of weird to me. They're a little the adapter is weird because I'm like, I don't know who's playing this thing on a laptop, but I guess it's in there because people do. I like that they've gone to DP because most GPUs these days you get 3 DP connections, you get 1 HDMI. And when I'm running on a PC or when I am running on my gaming laptop, and I have 1 HDMI, and I'm using the HDMI out, I have to swap the cable to DP to HDMI to move the monitor to that so I can get access to the HDMI connection. But yeah, I'm kind of a fan of the headset. I don't know, maybe because maybe it's on the original Rift. There's some kind of button here on the bottom. I'm hoping that that's a push to what I want to say. I hope this is a push to like reset, re-level push button. But I don't know. That might be my hopes might be up.
No, that's a great one. I didn't know there was a button on the bottom. I knew
Yeah.
about the Lenovo branding, but I have no idea what that button is.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. The controllers, I'm halfway on. It's going to take, using them to see how I feel about them. I'm starting to refer to these as the snub nose controllers for the Star Wars reference, or you can consider. I've also called them the concealed carry controllers. So they are smaller. I like the Windows mixed reality controllers, but they're big honking controllers, and they easily knock into like the desk and things when I'm using them. As you've mentioned, I do like the feel of the analog sticks. You've mentioned that these are, I mean, and they probably are the best controllers out there. The Vive controllers also are like super huge. They're like the length of my whole sinking forearm. But one thing I'm not crazy about is the buttons inside the PlayStation like buttons
Yep.
are very plasticky and feel very cheap. Um, Maybe they'll be okay, but like the initial feel of them is not that great. Um, But yeah, those were kind of my major initial impressions. I do like that the controllers only use one AA battery. But now having the Vive, I'm kind of would rather that they not great for the environment, but I wish that they were lithium ion or some type of rechargeable battery like the Vive controllers are, so I don't have to worry about. One of the things that drives me absolutely bonkers with those Windows Mixed Reality, I think we mentioned it before, is that you do all the pre-flight, you get all the stuff set up, you run all the cables, like bring up the goofy WMR application on top of the Steam VR application on top of the game you want to play. You get everything set. Steam VR tries to suck you into the Steam VR like playroom, and as you're getting sucked in, one of the stinking controller batteries die, which you think you can just swap the batteries, but frequently it requires back out of one, back out of the other, put the battery in, reconnect the control. It gets a whole thing. So hopefully the Rift S experience isn't like that. What
Well,
about you on the Quest, or did you have questions about the Rift S?
well, no, I wanted to talk a little bit about. So what I use is the ENE loop.
Okay, those are rechargeables.
They're rechargeables. They're awesome. I buy,
Okay,
I usually buy like a pack. So I use them at work. I use them in my mics. I use them in everything except for remote controls for like the TV because those they seem to last forever. I mean the
okay,
AAA's seem to last forever. The
right,
remote control, but
right.
in everything else I have that uses AA's or AAA's, I use these any loops. You can recharge them 1,000 times.
Okay,
I'm probably up to 100 on some of them, but I just whenever one gets low, I throw it in a bucket and right next to the charger, and I plug it in. I usually have 6 or 7 just in my drawer. They hold their charge for years. That's
oh,
the other great
nice.
thing. They hold their charge. They'll be like 80% after 10 years. So
Wow.
that's a big thing, right? Because with
Yeah.
rechargeables, your big worry is,
So
well, yeah, I can charge them all up, but they're not going to be
yeah.
ready.
So VR may go maybe go there. Other thing I want to mention, and I don't know this thing up here without wrecking it. Probably the thing that I'm happiest about is the box that it comes in.
Oh, I know. My box
I
was
got
awesome
things flopping
too.
around. So both with the Acer Acer AH101 and with the Vive, the boxes are unusable for anything other than shipping. Um, like the Acer box, like it just because of course I keep this stuff put away and packed, underneath a desk or something. When it came time to actually play it, it was, unpacking the whole thing all over again. It was not in a ready state. So with the Acer, I bought like a little kit bag,
Mm.
and it's got slots and stuff for the controllers, and I put it that allows me to unzip it and pull the thing out and be ready to go within minutes. The Vive with its 59 components that come in the kit, like the sensor slot into like a like it's again, when I pack it in that box, it's like it's for shipping. This thing, it's a ready to go. This, if I bought a case for it, this is what would be a case, right? So you
Yeah.
unfold the thing and you just yank it out, plug it in, it's ready to go. So it's like a pack up kit or a ready to deploy kit, and I'm sure I'm going to appreciate lots of things about the Rift S. I appreciate the attention to detail that some engineer thought of in how they were going to design the case that the thing went in, and not force people to like the first accessory that they have to buy to go onto Amazon and find like a Rift S like carrying case.
Yeah. Yeah, and I gotta agree with that. My case looks just like yours for the Quest. The only thing it's missing is the original Rift had a nice handle too, like a really cool handle. I want to talk to you about the controllers. So the Quest comes with the same exact controller that the Rift S comes with, right? And when I started playing with this, now I had no problems. I think it's a mental thing with me because like Windows Mixed Reality controllers. Once I'm in the game, I was playing some. When my Lenovo came back from being repaired on the warranty, I played some Skyrim VR, and I had absolutely no problem using the Windows Mixed Reality controllers, none whatsoever. Once I got the headset on, I wasn't looking at them anymore. But when I'm looking at them, I'm like, there's something aesthetically not pleasing about them. But I agree with you, they work great. What I find aesthetically not pleasing about this controller is not only I know this has to go on the top. It's because the camera has to see it, right? So that's I understand that, but it's like I don't feel like there's a lot of room in there. I'm a big guy too, and I just don't feel like there's a lot of room in there for my big fingers, But it felt fine. It felt fine, and the touch sense, like the touch, they got that on the button. So if you put your finger just hover it over the button, you'll see your virtual finger uh, uh, um, in that spot.
Nice.
I think
Let me
the
ask you.
original. I'm sorry. Let me interrupt for a
Yeah, go
second.
ahead.
So the original, I think this is like this. It's just you have so much room up there
Right,
on the
right.
top. It's like, and that's you can see the little round sensor right there.
Yep,
That's your finger sensor. But it just
yep.
felt so roomy and open, and it's almost like when you put it on, it's not cramping. It doesn't feel. I don't know. So
No,
so this new controller I found worked great in the setup, right? But visually, I think that this guy's still the original, is still the I don't know, still my favorite as far as ergonomics, as far as looks and appealing.
right.
But go ahead. I'm
So
sorry.
one question I had for you. So one thing I like about the Windows Mixed Reality controllers is that they give you both haptic feedback and light feedback. Right? They're the Halo controllers because they have the little mocap looking lights strung around the edge of the controller. Do you have any visual feedback that these things are connected?
Well, for my original Rift, I always run the Oculus app and click on devices
Okay.
because I'm always unplugging stuff. Like tonight when we went to play Battlezone, I didn't have one of my sensors plugged in. I didn't have perfect tracking. I'm like, why don't? And I looked in the app and it showed, hey, you only have one sensor connected. You really want two. So
Okay.
that's how I would tell if they were on. I just run the Oculus app and click the bottom tab as devices.
Okay.
So it's almost like a more visual version of Steam. But
Right.
so for the Rift S, I'm assuming you're going to be doing the same thing. I do want to get your opinion once you start using it of the Guardian, because with the new Guardian for the Rift S,
Right.
it's supposed to not only give you the kind of the holodeck, grid, but once you
Okay.
go too far, it's supposed to give you that flashlight like or see-through like um,
Right.
view of what's in your area, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and
Let
I
me know how that
don't
works.
know. Yeah, I don't know that I'll be able to effectively test that just because I predominantly play like sitting down. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I'll try and get around to that. One thing that if you haven't used VR might be a little scary is when you unpack the Rift. This is the safety manual.
Oh, I get the same manual. It's hard.
Now, this is probably it's in at least four different languages.
Yeah.
But like when I saw this thing, I was like, man, this is like stinking PC games from like the like
Oh,
1990s, early 2000s, right? With the big thick manuals in the box. I was like, that's a little it's a little intimidating, right? When you unpack it, you're like, I don't know that I should put this thing on my head if this is the safety manual that's required for it.
I
So
think
I
the
thought that was
original
pretty
Rift
funny.
had that too. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
it has the same. It's kind of laughable because the print gets so small even with my cheaters. A lot of times I can't see it. But so you're out of box. You're so far you're a happy camper.
Yeah, again, I haven't plugged the thing and used it yet. That's going to be obviously the real tale of the tape. But from a hardware perspective, I'm pretty satisfied with the overall design. Um, it's it is, it's not. I mean, it's above the build quality of the Acer headset. Probably the Acer headset is a less expensive headset, and it's made by Acer, which I love Acer. In fact, the laptop I'm podcasting on right now is an Acer laptop. It is my gaming laptop, and it is the most highly sold gaming laptop on Amazon. So they make great products, but they obviously make great products at incredibly low prices. And I don't want to say that they cut corners, but they definitely target like minimalism. So there's a marked difference between the build quality and I don't even know that I want to say build quality, but build construction of this versus the Acer headset. With the Vive, and again, I haven't used the Vive a ton. It's comparable. So the build quality and construction are in the in the ballpark
I would
for
love
this price of a device.
I would love to get your opinion of something like Elite Dangerous, like just in the cockpit, the text in the cockpit. How do you think it compares? Because all the through the lenses I'm seeing is, and everybody watching probably knows that I play Elite Dangerous most Sunday nights with the guys. And so when I see that the Rift S is supposed to have so much better text in the cockpit, it kind of makes me want to get it. But I'm not convinced yet. I get I played again. I played in the Rift tonight and I had fun and it was great. So
Yeah, so probably not probably. I mean, I can almost guarantee my first initial test will be with a game called Overload on PC, which is the spiritual successor to Descent 3. So,
oh, all right.
and I am 99.6% certain it has a VR mode to it. So that's my current play. I'm playing that right now on PC in conventional mode with my Cytec X45 flight control system, so it's all cool and nerdy. But my intention is to play a few rounds of that in conventional mode and then flip it to using it in VR to do my initial testing with the Rift S.
I still remember the original Descent. Had so much fun in that game. I still have the shareware box somewhere um, over there. But in any case, great game. I actually backed the Descent Underground, I think, version on Kickstarter. I don't know if it's ever released yet or not, but great stuff. So we've kind of done the out of boxes. Let's go to the let's talk about actual VR gameplay. And tonight we played Battlezone. We had some issues, so the video's not up yet. Um, One of the things that drives me nuts, I love this game. It was on sale for like $8.95 or something this week,
Oh, nice.
over the weekend. It's a fun game. I feel like it's half Battlezone, half Tron, the first Tron, right? And but one of the things is it captures your mouse, like when you're playing. So if you have to get out and check something or click on something, it's just really weird. So anyways, we'll have the game up, but it's fun. And they did a great job. The tanks, like if you remember the original battles on the tanks, they're not like real tanks. They're like an Abrams tank like you would find in, I don't know, Battlefield, right? These are they kind of float over the ground. And I was going in circles. I was shooting people going backwards. The ability to look up because they have these I don't know what they call them, like little flyers or skimmers that you have to take out. Um, just be able to look up. Of course, I got a gaming chair, so I can't go back too far, but just to be able to look up and look around. And when the mission starts, the panel that has the mission on it actually comes up next to you, so you can see it in very big, bold text. You can see, and then after it figures you've read it all, it goes back down. And the only thing I think it needs is it needs so many games need this. It's like they should give you like an introductory video, like 30 seconds to explain how to play the game. Because
Right.
we're just coming home from work and jumping in. That's we come home, we spend time with the family, we jump into the game, and so it's been challenging trying to learn it on the fly. But definitely, if anybody out there, if you want to spend $8.75 on a PC game, wait till the next Steam sale, which could be tomorrow. I've heard rumors that the spring sale starts tomorrow, but the summer sale was leaked for June 25th, I think. So always buy on sale. But
So so
go ahead.
so let me ask you. So Battlezone uses a game controller, right?
Yes, it does. Yes.
So now you have the same flight control system that I do, the Thrustmaster T16000 FCS.
Yes.
Did you buy or add a variant with the twin joysticks?
No, I think the one I have is a T16000M. I have the joystick and the throttle, and I use that
And the
for
twi- and,
yeah. So
and the Twix.
one stick and one throttle. So and I use that for Elite Dangerous. It's phenomenal. Still a learning curve. Like you get like 100 things mapped all over. I mean, the default it comes unlike we were talking about uh, um, IL2 Boss last week, which was also
Yeah.
on sale last week. That didn't have any setup. At least Elite Dangerous, they have pre-scanned setups for everything. So, of course, I've remapped most of it now. But no, I just love having the gazillion buttons, right? It's awesome.
Oh yeah.
So and
So I was at
that's great for VR because when you put VR on, you really can't see your keyboard and mouse, right?
right, right,
So
right,
having
right.
everything at your fingertips, right, and knowing where everything is amazing. But
Yeah.
that's the same with the controller. When we used to fly playing. Well, we all started on the Xbox. So when we went to move to PC and started playing Elite in VR, because we had the controller, the Xbox controller memorized, so it was there was nothing to think about. So, and
Right.
actually, my Rift actually came. I had to buy the touches separately. My Rift actually came with the an Xbox controller.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
So, and you'll see that in the setup. I mean, most of the games, even Star Trek Bridge Crew will say, "Hey, you can use an Xbox controller or a touch controller."
Okay. I was asking because I was very curious as to whether or not Battlezone would work with the twin stick T16,000 setup. So the T16,000 you can buy. You can either buy the joystick by itself. You can buy the Twix by itself. By Twix, I mean the thrust weapon control system or throttle weapon control system. It's the slider throttle part. You can buy those together. They also sell a variant that is kind of specifically for like Star Citizen and space simulations that is actually twin sticks. So you get two joysticks in the thing. And I was wondering if Battlezone, because you remember in the arcade, the whole thing about Battlezone was it had the twin things, and you could twist the tank by pushing one forward and pulling one back. And I was curious if that control scheme worked.
I think it only works. What you have to do is you have to get like a cardboard cutout and put your head next to the monitor, and that's the only time it'll work. I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. That's if anybody has played the classic Battlezone, you have to kind of get up to it and
Yeah, right. Well,
like you're
right.
looking through a periscope almost.
It
Yeah,
had the tank thing,
yeah,
the
yeah,
tank visor in it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So no, I haven't tried anything. It says on Steam you have to use a controller, and so I just used the Xbox. But that's
All right.
interesting. That's an interesting question. I can check that out. Um, with that said, there was something else we wanted to talk about. I forget what it was. We don't have a viewer comment spotlight because well we've been busy playing with our toys. Sorry, but we do love it when you guys comment on the shows. We really appreciate it. And we'll round up this show's and last show's comments on the next show, so we won't leave you
Yeah,
guys out.
I took it. I looked at the comments for last episode. I took it as everyone was satisfied with the episode and nobody had any comments or questions. So I took that as good job.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people know, hey, what do they want? Do they want the premier tracking of the index? Do they want the best resolution so they get the reverb? Do they want the ease of use? And when you look at that Rift S, that thing's portable. That works well with a laptop because and that's why that's when I go on the road, I was not taking my Rift, I was taking my Windows Mixed Reality because two connections and you're good to go. No external stuff. So yeah, everybody seems happy. I'm excited about the Quest. I'm really focusing on cross-buy titles. So I want to try Robo Recall, Space Pirate Trainer, Orbis. I get all these games. I am going to buy the Star Wars game. I'm looking forward to that. But right now I'm focusing on
Is that
all of. Go ahead.
the Darth Vader title?
Yeah. It's
Okay.
it's
Okay.
it's $10. It's only 45 minutes, but it's something I want to try. I decided I'm not buying Beat Saber. I already own
Okay.
Beat Saber. It's the same exact game. If I want to play it, I'll just play it on the PC. I wish I had cross-buy. If I had cross-buy, I'd buy it again because I own it on Steam.
All
But
right.
they're not doing cross. And I understand why these developers don't want to do cross-buy, but I'm going to buy all the cross-buy stuff first
Okay.
because I can use it on both my headsets.
So what I need you to keep a lookout for me, and you don't have to buy them, but here's what always causes me to hedge on VR. There are decent experiences in games out there, but in order to flip me over to where I spend 50% or more of my time in VR versus conventional gaming is I need those big AAA game type experiences. And I know we're a ways off from getting the equivalent of like the Division 2 as a VR game in native VR, right? That's the other thing is I need those experiences that are ground up VR. VR modes are okay. Um, they're a bit easier and a bit more attractive when they are for a simulation. But really, I'm looking for those big AAA from the ground up VR, totally immersive kind of experiences that encourage me to want to play for more than 30 to 45 minutes at a time. So if you see those are the ones I'm interested in, and particularly for the Quest, they don't necessarily need to be the AAA ones, but they gotta be, man, they gotta be meaty. Like I don't want to get a Quest and have it just be like a glorified mobile game.
No, I hear you. I think now that you have a Rift, now that you have Oculus, Lone Echo, very, very meaty game. Um, I think probably Stormlands. I don't know if you've seen that. That's also a game that can be played co-op. Um, Defector. There are some, and it's funny because it seems like a lot of them are being backed by Oculus. It seems like Oculus is funding a lot of these games. I don't have a lot of time for single player. I'm hoping to get more now that I have the Quest because I can do it when I'm traveling. But you know, that's why we've been focusing on the Tricksters and Battle Zones and Star Trek Bridge Crews and all these great VR games that we've been playing. Carnage Chronicles because they support four-player co-op and it's really fun. And I love how a lot of these support the cross-platform play with the PlayStation VR and between the stores and whatnot. So yeah, I know they're coming. I feel like right now we're getting like the Dooms, we're getting the Descents. You know what I'm saying? We're getting those they're not the flashiest games, but they're some of the funnest games that are out there. You know what I'm saying? And like you look at the original Descent, it was just so much fun. Was it the it was innovative, right? It wasn't the best looking game at the time, but man, it was innovative. So, and I think that's what we're seeing now, and I think that's why a lot of these titles um, like virtual reality or virtual reality. Let's say that right. And other games like that, they're very innovative, right? And and I think that's why a lot of people are having fun. I think what we really need though is like a Skyrim VR MMO. You know what I'm saying? So apparently ESO will never be able to support VR because it struggles just supporting regular, 4K screens. So, but that I think that'll be, or it could be something like a Ghost Recon or Division or something, a military shooter that really brings you in, something more than just you know, just a like a Fortnite. You know what I'm saying? Something that really brings you in tactically, like the tactics we used to use back in the day with Battlefield, and really draws you in. And I mean, you just look at paintball, right, in Rec Room, how much fun that is, and how you can really use, you can really move around this, like dodge,
Right.
shots and whatnot.
Well, I think the thing that might be interesting, and again, we're struggling to sync times up, but what might be interesting is going back to some of those original VR experiences that you and I worked on together, like going back into Rec Room with the new hardware, particularly well, not particularly, but the ones that are cross-play compatible, um, and seeing how those feel now. I'd be very excited and interested. Like we had decent experiences in Rec Room, but the WMR implementation, which that time wasn't even officially supported,
Yeah.
was very janky. It'd be really interesting to go back and experience that like fully supported hardware, and with an additional year of maturity in those APIs.
Yeah, we'll have to try it. Maybe we can try once we both get our systems up and running, maybe in a few weeks. Rec Room would be a great one because it has crossplay. The Quest version doesn't have all the different levels or features, but it does have paintball from what I understand. So that would be fun to play, and I'll let you know. I mean, I'm looking forward to I'm kind of right now. I'm just waiting. I'm very happy with my Rift. I got Windows Mixed Reality if I need something portable, but so I'm just waiting. I'm waiting that the news. Really, it's not. It's really not news. A journalist went to Vive headquarters and somebody said to him that the Vive Cosmos may ship in the third quarter. So it's not really news. Not a lot of meat there, but I think that's the last headset we're getting for 2019. So um, I'm glad everybody's happy with what they're getting. I'm still on the fence. That's why I'm trying the Quest. So I think we'll have a good time. It will be cool to see the crossplay between Quest and and the Rift S and see how that works. But I think that's it. I think we're all done. Anything else? No? All right. Well, hey, everybody, I want to thank you for watching. I know this is a new format. Again, Google was having issues with Hangouts. We don't know what's going on. But And we still had fun talking about VR. Thank you for watching our VR Game Nights show on behalf of Sir Aga and myself, Sir Gray. We appreciate your viewing. And until next time, peace.